Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. I am going to be chatting with the developers from Elven Assassin and Wands. I love these kind of games, so I'm really excited to talk with them just a little bit. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you, and then I would like for you guys, as you introduce yourselves, please tell us what your first VR experience was. So Armando, would you like to go first?
Sure, I could go first. And so first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Armando. I head up marketing at Cortopia Studios, and we're here to talk about Wands today. My first VR experience was probably 4 years ago. You know, trying the what was it called, the Google box at a tech expo, and I can't really recall what it was, but it must have been like some kind of 3D video. Standing up in the mountains, and I was completely blown away. And fast forward a couple of years, and now I'm at Cortopia Studios.
That's great. Thank you. And Michael, tell us who you are, what you're doing, and what your first VR experience was.
So I'm Michael. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of the company. And my first, we are the authors of Elven Assassin and a couple of other games. And my first contact with VR was kind of more from a developer perspective, as me and my friend were also keen on like new things in technology. So the first time I had my VR experience was when we ordered like the Google Cardboard you, Armando, mentioned, and we've kind of wanted to see what it's like to kind of make some of our ideas happen on the headset. So my first experience was on the cardboard, and also our first games were on the cardboard. So that's kind of a story.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you're both here today. And I am Haskell7, or Sonia Haskins. I do a lot in the VR esports world, write articles for VR Fitness Insider, and sometimes I get the pleasure of being invited to things like this by Ryan and other people. So thank you guys for letting me moderate this panel today. One thing I really like about, so let me say, first of all, I'll preface this with, I have 5 kids and they love fantasy. Like, they love reading fantasy books and watching fantasy movies, and I very much don't. So, however, with that said, I love fantasy and VR, which is really weird. You know, you just don't know how those things happen, but I really do. And both of your games are based in fantasy worlds. So I was wondering, what's similar about your fantasy settings, and if you're familiar with each other's games. But talk about that a little bit. Why did you decide to develop them the way you did as far as the setting, and how do you think that fantasy is important, and is it a good thing in VR esports, or is it a good thing in VR? How can that, just talk about that a little bit. Michael, do you want to go first?
Okay, no problem. So from my point of view, the VR was kind of made for making things that are like impossible to happen in real life. So that's why we love to recreate some of the our favorite scenarios from movies and games. We always wanted to take part in, like defending the keep or something like so. So that's why we thought of developing the game that would create a world that it's impossible to experience in kind of real life.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's one of the benefits of VR, right? You can fly in VR and feel like you're really doing it, and you can become an elven assassin and stand there on your little tower and defend your town from the ogres. So.
Yeah, and as for our inspirations, I can say that we had one inspiration. We loved for first Lord of the Rings movies. We loved Warcraft series and other fantasy books. So we kind of took the basic lore from all those creations before, and created our own interpretation in our own world, and we're still in development of this world. We want to add more to the fantasy surrounding the player. I don't know how to say it, but we want to make the plot more deeper to show more aspects of this fantasy world.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, I do say that's great, but then I'm sitting here, I'm literally thinking as you're talking, oh my gosh, they're going to add more good stuff to that game, and then I'm going to have to go play it, and I'm so busy already, and so it's really so much fun. Armando, I'd like to hear you on that same question as far as fantasy goes and stuff, because I really love like the way Wands looks visually, and I mean, it's spectacular. It actually reminds me a bit of The Unspoken, as far as the way it looks a little bit and the, you know, magical things. So talk a little bit about the fantasy in your game.
So I'll give us a little bit of background about myself real quick, because so I am actually the second newest person on the team since a couple of months back. And so when I got to, you know, really play around with the games that we've developed, I was absolutely blown away, because first of all, I didn't know. I mean, I came from finance, and I didn't know how far things had really gotten. And I mean, I still get really excited just talking about it, because I remember putting on, you know, my quest and then just being like, holy shoot, I can really just teleport everywhere. And that was just absolutely incredible. And so in terms of the early development process, unfortunately, I wasn't there for it. And so I guess I'll be coming more from a new player perspective than from the way you are, Mike. And so I remember, but we did release Wands first on Gear VR, and I think, you know, we were really trying to explore the medium, because the interesting thing is, because as you mentioned, I'm a big fantasy fan myself. I read a ton of fantasy. I play a ton of fantasy, you know, even before I got involved with Cortopia Studios. And the funny thing is, I still find them to be very different. And even though you're, you know, absorbing fantasy, you know, when I read fantasy today after work, it still feels as though I'm kind of just disconnecting and I'm, you know, relaxing for a little bit. Whereas if I'm playing Wands, it gets competitive pretty quickly. So it feels more like, you know, you're coming in on a competitive PvP, you know, type of environment.
Yeah, I think that there is a difference too, because like I mentioned, I don't even like reading fantasy. It has no appeal to me whatsoever, but I love being in fantasy worlds in VR, because it's because I like realism. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you're in VR, even if it's a fantasy world, it's as if you're really there. So to me, that's more like realism, just in a place I've never been, versus reading a fantasy, you know, about whatever creation. So that's interesting. And kudos to you for going from finance to what you're doing now. I can only imagine it's much more thrilling.
It is.
Like, seriously.
Indeed it is.
That's great. Well, I'll come back to you in a minute. I wanted to talk to you about you mentioning the competitive aspect of Wands. But before we do that, I wanted to switch over to Michal. We're actually having the final tournament in the Elven Assassin tournament right after this panel. And so I was wondering, you guys actually had a multiplayer mode for a while now in Elven Assassin. I think I started playing that 2 years ago, maybe. And I can't remember exactly, but I know it's been there for quite a while. It's been great. And so can you talk about that a little bit, the development cycle up to a competitive mode? And is that benefiting the game? Do people really enjoy that? How's all that going?
Start off, I would maybe mention that we first start with co-op mode, when you can shoot orcs with your friends, but after some time, we decided to add the PvP, and it happened that it's much more engaging for people to actually compete with each other. So co-op is a more of a relaxing experience, and PvP is where the real competition is happening. And we also wanted to make some timed event, like only on Sunday or something like this, that would gather more people at one time. And also many games approach this competition with leaderboards and things that are not happening in one time. Like there's a leaderboard and everyone compete, but this is in a manner in which they save their scores, and they can see if they can see each other player. They can see other players interacting with these leaderboards later on, and we wanted to do something new, and that's why we created that timed event. And I think the biggest problem which we need to cope with somehow was to allow the system to have many players in multiplayer. So that was a kind of a solution that is not so obvious, and we needed to implement some real complex systems for that.
Yeah, I think it's really great. I like leaderboards are great, and for some of these games that's necessary the way they're developed right now, and maybe they will have later where you can have the players in there actually together at the same time. And some of the game developers are creating ways to do this, even if it's not necessarily like PvP right that second, you know. But one thing I was wondering with Elven Assassin is right now you can only have 4 people competing in there at the same time, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
So would there be the capability or the option at some point in the future to have more people than that? Or is that even a good idea? Because I know the way it's set up, I personally like the way you can hop to the different towers and then shoot the enemies. So I don't even know if it would be a good idea to have more than 4, because if you get too many in there, it seems like it might end up being a little chaotic to be, you know, unless you had team versus team. You could have like 4 on one team, 4 on another team. But have you thought any about future development in terms of competitive mode?
Yeah, we tested on 8 players. This is our next step, and we think this is a great fun to have deathmatch on. So indeed, it's more chaotic, but it's kind of a fun chaotic, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the challenge would be right now, because the VR ecosystem is still a bit small, just making sure you have enough players in there to do those competitions and have the games filled. And so with the Quest, you know, and the influx we're having from that, and hopefully we'll see another growth spurt this fall and holiday season, then I would think that the game would continue to grow and that would be more possible. So
yeah,
that's really exciting.
I think that currently our player base is strong enough to handle like 8 players matches. Like
that's great.
That there will be enough players, especially now when we implemented the crossplay in tournaments mode.
Yes.
So the tournaments, and they are crossplay with the VR headsets like Rifts. So all connected. It makes sense to have 8 people there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that. And Armando, I'd like to kind of pose the same question to you, but slightly differently. So Wands has actually had competitive seasons for quite a while.
Yeah.
And so you can chat about that just a little bit. How did that develop and how is that going? You know, is that going well for you guys? And then I'd like to move into, after you discuss it, I'd like to move into if you are having a lot of people participate in those, have you seen that the community has actually helped perpetuate that and keep it growing by training other players and bringing people into the ecosystem? Community building is very important to me. I actually started VR Community Builders, a company that we use to bring people in the whole ecosystem together. And it's just one of those things where it's so important, because if you don't have a community in your game, then you really have nobody to play your game. I mean, you need players to make your game succeed. And so, and the more positive you can make that community, the better the growth is, I think, because then you don't end up with people just, you know, leaving gradually because they're not pleased there or happy. So how have you guys been able to grow your community in such a way that it you've been able to support things like trainings, boot camps, and competitive seasons you've had so far?
Right. So we've been simply trying to keep up with the community. They're really the ones who've been taking the lead in, you know, doing things such as game analysis, you know, loadout breakdown and things like that. And really the only thing we're trying to do is just facilitate a venue for them to, best express their best self, essentially.
Yeah, that's great.
And so, and because Wands is a PvP game, having the seasons was kind of always the idea from the get-go. And frankly, I think that we probably can do a better job at creating even more intense seasons. And so as such, we actually have a few changes we're going to be announcing for seasons to try to make sure that they're simply a lot more exciting to attend. And yeah, I mean, so just to make sure I don't get sidetracked here, there's a big aspect of strategy in the game that really allows people to kind of take the conversation beyond just the specific spells you're using, because overall battle strategy is universal. And we've really seen our community be able to indulge in those kinds of deeper discussions in order to actually become better. And it's also a very friendly community that actually invites new players. And luckily, lately we've also updated the game so that it's easier for new players to kind of join and kind of take part. Since this summer, we launched the dual wielding update that allows people to now fight with 2 wands, but also with simpler, mechanics, so that you can actually teleport faster without having to stand, teleport, and then try to figure out what you do next. But even before we got to that point, the more experienced players, the top 10 finishers, have always been there to help people out, and we really wouldn't be anywhere without them. So it wouldn't be fair for me to say that it's really on us that we've managed to facilitate to take the lead. It's really been them. And so we just try to make sure that we listen to them intently, and that we take as much advice from them as we can to try to build the kind of game that they want.
Yeah, I love that. That's excellent. So I have a team of people that I play with and work with. We're all volunteers, but we do a lot of community stuff. And one of the games we do a lot with is Echo VR. And it's so funny when you were saying that. I think the developers, they are very supportive of us, but talking about keeping up, yeah, we've always done that in that community as well. We come up with ideas and we're constantly trying to do stuff and create events and everything. And they're very, very supportive. But sometimes I feel like, we're kind of like those kids that just want their parents to go out and play with them for a while. And so we always have all these things we want to do. And they're just trying to keep up with us. And so it's really funny. I appreciate the fact that you as developers are doing that for your communities, because it is important. We have games that we've worked with where they don't necessarily do that. They don't interact. Maybe they're not on the Discords, or they just simply don't provide the opportunities the communities are asking for. And, those will eventually die. And then you do have some where they create events themselves and they just start doing it. And maybe you even see a resurgence in those communities, which is great. But all that's so important to have the players feel like they are part of this magical ecosystem, of your game. And so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. So just to be clear, do you know when your next boot camp is, Armando?
So we are running the boot camp today.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. So is it after this?
It's going on right now.
Oh, it's going on right now. Okay.
Yeah. So the boot camp itself isn't streamed, but we will be posting videos from the boot camps. And it's actually really exciting because I believe that it's the first official boot camp that we've run. And I'm mainly thankful because I get to also participate and learn from some of the really talented players. And yeah, because there is a lot more to cover than than even I knew, and I know that some of the devs were even also surprised at the depth of the strategies and so on. And so that's really what I mean when I say that they take the lead and we just try to keep up.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I love the fact that you just said it'll be posted after as well. In the communities I help with, we actually try to always do that too. Just stick it on YouTube so that we make sure people can reference those later, because not everybody can attend right at that time. And so that's fantastic. That'll really help your competitive community grow as well. You said something that made me think, oh, I know, you were talking about intense actions in Wands, and I made a note to ask about both of the games, I think, can be kind of physically intense. Not necessarily. There's some VR games where obviously they're meant more for, like Pistol Whip. You're ducking, dodging, jumping. You're moving around stuff. So it's specifically tailored for VR fitness and workouts and such. And we've seen a lot of weight loss and things like Echo VR and Beat Saber and different things. So for your games, I actually think they fall into that same category. You can be a little calmer in those games, but pretty much if you want to really get in there and work out, you can do that and raise your cardio. You also, with your games, can stretch in advance, and if you're ready, do a lot of movement. So what are the most intense actions you see in your games, and how do you think that's affecting people in terms of fitness and the possibilities there? Do you want to go first on that, Michael?
Yeah, okay. So in Elven Assassin, in the co-op mode, I think that the main reason to make some exercises are the big axes that are flying towards you. If you shoot an orc that is holding an axe, the orc is getting angry and he throws it towards you, so you need to dodge immediately. Also, in the later waves, when there are many orcs, it's getting a pretty tough thing to shoot the bow in a really fast manner.
I think a minute ago I called them ogres. I don't know why I called them ogres, but yeah, orcs. That's the name, orcs. Yeah, it's great to kill them.
We all love killing orcs.
Yeah, we love killing orcs. It's like one of those accomplishments in life everybody should experience. So have you seen any stories from your players about weight loss or how the game has benefited them, Michael?
I've heard that their arms were made stronger by playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. I have a story about that, actually. I'll tell you very quickly. I'm not kidding. When I first started playing that game, you literally are doing your bow, and you think you're in VR. You're not actually holding a bow and arrow. And so I was playing that and In Death for a few days. And I woke up a couple of days later, and I was like so sore. And I thought, gosh, man, I must have slept wrong or something. I was like, what is wrong with me? So I went and I loaded up the game and I got ready to kill an orc. I was getting ready to shoot and I was like, oh, that's what's wrong with me. It was so funny. I was just like, that's the muscle that hurts. It's really strange how that can happen. But sincerely, I mean, it really does work those muscles still, that maybe if you hadn't been used to using those, that's fantastic. So I would love to see, you need to get your Elven Assassins people, encourage them on your social media to start posting photos of their VR muscles and show that, there's Matt Chacon. He lives in Seattle, I think, but he actually is always posting pictures of his figure, his body after his workouts, because he does VR workouts and he looks so good. And it's just like, yeah, you can use this technology to do great things, not just with cardio, but also other, flexibility, and actually you can develop muscles and stuff. So Armando, same question to you as far as fitness and the movements and everything like that. Are you seeing your people grow any new muscles is my question.
So I haven't specifically asked if we can get any before and after pictures, but you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing some six packs.
Yeah, because you do use your core. Yeah,
you definitely do. But what we have seen is people posting pictures of their gaming room where they've actually had to make sure that there's enough space to move around, because you have to physically, dodge, turn around, and especially with the with some of the slightly larger maps where somebody can teleport behind you and all of a sudden you have to you have to literally physically turn around, right?
Yeah.
And you can also dodge some of the incoming, spells that are flying your way. So it can be quite intensive, especially if the game gets heated up. Also, you can make sure that people's tiles where you're standing, something's happening. So you have to be very quick. And I think it was one of the things that struck me fast is that, okay, when I started playing the game, I was like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm not hitting something and so on. But it was it was physically intense, and I think that can be that will become a fun, like the way people are currently posting, battle stations on Reddit. It wouldn't surprise me if we start seeing more people posting, I don't know, gaming stations, because we've already started doing that in our Wands Discord.
For sure. We've seen those all the time in Echo VR, and you'll see more and more of those. But I think in general, in the VR ecosystem overall, I actually started posting this week my living room, which is now completely green. The walls, the ceiling, and I have a green floor that is going to be coming in the next couple of days. And so all my normal friends who don't do VR, they're all just like, it's a green room. I'm like, yeah, it's a green room. So I'm going to be streaming, but I won't have a living room anymore. And the reason I did that, Armando, is because I recently moved to a trailer, and trailer bedrooms are very small. I play seated. So anytime I'm playing your games or any games, if I reach to the left or right, I'm constantly hitting a wall because the rooms are literally like almost just the width of my arm span. And so the living room was the only room I could play VR in where I wasn't constantly bashing my hands. And so I think that what you just said is really cool to be able to see how different people are creating those spaces and what they're doing with them. And you get to see who is the most committed to their VR gaming.
Oh, definitely.
All right. So speaking of commitment, you're higher level players for both of you. Do you think it's just a matter of time spent in game, or that they're actually taking the time to strategize and think of ways to actually improve at the specific skills? Or what do you think it is that makes them set apart, that makes them the high level players in the games? And I was wondering, are they able to pass that on to others, maybe through video training? Like you have the boot camps, of course, but I guess I'm just wondering, how can others become a high level player like that? Like, what's the secret? Do you guys know the answer to that?
Do you want to go first?
Please go ahead.
Go ahead, Armando.
So this season's winner, Michael Odette, is very helpful in posting guides and actually sharing that knowledge. In terms of time spent in game, I mean, the top level players have definitely spent their fair share of time in the game, and I think you have to, both to stay up to date with the new loadouts, keeping up with the meta, as especially now that we have changed to a dual wielding mechanism, to also so basically making sure that you're sharing the knowledge, and so they definitely do. Now I got sidetracked with the question. What was it?
No, that was a good answer. Actually, I think that's perfect. And I actually want to adjust the question a little bit so Michael can answer that part of it. Like, what are they doing? Are they spending time in game? They learn specific skills. It's good that they're sharing those skills. One thing I didn't ask that I'm interested in, are you starting to see like other players or even people outside your game, mostly inside your game, they really admire those people and put them up on a pedestal, ask them questions, stuff? Like, I feel in some ways in some of these games that we're creating superstars where people can admire them. We see that in traditional esports and traditional sports where you see the heroes of the game. And for me personally, I'm always happy to promote anyone that does good in the ecosystems, but it's especially nice to find those people like the guy you just mentioned that actually is helpful and posts helpful guides and tries to do good things in the communities. So, don't you guys think that's important through this development of the superstars, the best players in the game? Michael, do you want to answer that?
So in our case, it happens organically. So we didn't need to influence the process or anything like this. We do no work, and it's kind of it's a pure skill that it's really hard to not like recognize, because you see when we try to make a game, so it really the skill of the player is really important in a game. There are really little things that are like random thing. So when you see, for example, in a tournament, the player that is much better than others and he can shoot like 100 meters and perfectly aim in some other helmet on the other side of the map, it's like unbelievable, and it's like he's auto promoting himself, and everyone must acknowledge this.
He's earned his respect.
Yeah.
That's great.
And there are players that spend so unbelievable amounts in the game. Like I think that the best players spend like 1,000 hours in the game. So that's unbeatable. I myself sometimes jump in the game, not claiming I'm one of the developer or something like this, just to have some fun in the game. And many times those guys try to like coach me, judge me, tell me how to play the game, because I'm much worse in it.
That's funny. You're making me so. I have to jump back in Elven Assassin soon, because I was playing regularly for a while, and I'm actually pretty good at VR games. But I will tell you, honest to goodness, and this isn't in a prideful way, but I'm probably better at that game than any other game I play. So I'm pretty good at Echo Arena and stuff, but the pro players have surpassed me a long time ago and everything. And but I absolutely, for whatever reason, I have really good aim in that game. Like, I'm very, very good at that. Man, I can hit those 100-meter helmet shots. So now you make me just want to go play the rest of the day. I'm going to take off and just go play. And so Armando, I'll have to get in Wands and get in there and see if I can prove it. I'm not good. And so I'm not good at most of these games. I'm just pretty much average. I'm not horrible, but yeah, I'm very good at shooting those at works and the other players in Elven. So to get back,
we have a very similar community in the sense that if you jump in and you get matched up with somebody, if they notice that you're not very good, they're gonna say, "Hey, do you want to do another session, and I'll show you the ropes." Because that's how it was for me the first time around, and I just decided not to tell the guy that the first time that I was like, so I'm supposed to be working for the for the studio here, but yeah, absolutely, help me out, please. So
that's
and I think that's it, as a just to paint some broad strokes. In a lot of games at the moment, the communities are so small, not small necessarily, but they're tight knit enough because we're so early in VR that most of these communities, they just want to kind of see everybody else grow.
Yeah, that's great, and you're exactly right. It's so nice to see that from your perspective. I hear what you're saying, and it's great to hear that you're seeing the people do that and do the training. But I can tell you from a player perspective, it's really exciting when you get into a game and you see the developers in there enjoying their game as well. And so, players love that. Even if we don't know who you are necessarily, because you aren't necessarily using your developer tag at the time, it's nice when you see that later on Discord or something and say, "Oh yeah, we were playing with so-and-so." That's really great. So on behalf of all the players out there in all these games, we love it when you guys do that. It's fantastic. So thank you.
I think we have a kind of a different perspective on this thing, because it happened many times that when, for example, I was developing something and I wanted to just test something, I spent too much time in game. So this definitely affected the development process.
Yeah, I think we're all seeing that to a degree. I mean, I'm supposed to write articles, and I do stuff like this and write articles about VR and VR esports, and we're having so many more opportunities, which is great, and being kind of busy. And whenever I'm starting to feel a little bit stressed, I don't get stressed very easily, but if I do, I go play. Like, I go play VR. And sometimes you're in there and you realize, I really should be working. And it's like, nah, man, this is why we're here. Like, we want to enjoy the things we're creating and involved in. And if this is how you can keep yourself refreshed and do that, then like I do some different of my favorite games and other games I just want to go play sometimes, and then betas you can be in. It's just like, that's a great way to go enjoy your game, Michael. Do that as much as you want. All right, one last question, and then if the producer sees any questions on stream, I'm not actually on stream, so I don't know if there are questions popping up or not. So if anybody knows that and wants to type them in the group chat here, that would be great, because I can't monitor those. But I have another question for you guys really quick, and that is, if we are able to do in-person events again next year, which hopefully we'll be able to again soon. I really love seeing the VR esports on stages, where you have like the players with a screen and then it shows them in game, where it also shows the overlay and stuff with the players, or you can at the very least see them there doing the action. And last year I was in China watching Final Assault, Fajalak Interactive's Final Assault there, and they had such a nice setup with the screen there and then the players, so you could see exactly what they were doing in real time. What do you guys think about live events for your games? How would you envision like the perfect, just tell me your dreams here. What would be the perfect event, and what would that look like for you? Armando, you want to go first?
So I'm sitting here holding a grin back because this is what we were trying to do until we got struck by COVID. Yeah. We actually wanted to get a physical event in place because as fun as it is to play and chat to people on Discord, it's also really fun to meet people in real life. And especially if you get to combine that with some Wands play, then that would have been fantastic. But we are going to try to do that as soon as restrictions are lifted. Then Excellent. Absolutely. That's the dream.
Excellent. So, and you can just say the ideas, but don't you think it's great? You can just get together and have the players fellowship, and you have them compete, and then you give them prizes. I mean, I don't even know. I'm supposed to ask you guys this question, and I'm thinking we all know what makes a great live event. It's just that we're together.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
I don't even know that we have to have specific parameters. It's just like we get to be not only with other humans, but we get to be with other humans who like the same things we do. All right, Michael, do you have anything to add to that besides be together?
You're totally right. I don't know what else could I add to this.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, and I want to be there. So if you guys do a live event, I'll come and I'll write articles about it and talk to all your people and say hello, and I'll just make everybody feel happy.
So. Oh, absolutely, you got it.
All right, I'm wondering.
We will definitely reach to you if anything comes up.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, last year I traveled like 7 months out of the year, and
oh, that's cool.
It was fantastic. I would go home occasionally, but I mostly was traveling, and I was on 3 continents and traveled like to China and Switzerland and England and stuff, covering VR esports. People don't realize that we are growing as an industry, and we are doing these things, and there are competitions, and we have the virtual athletics leagues events, and there are other events that go on, but it is definitely a growing industry, and we still need to grow. But I foresee just going to these things, you can see it. You can just see the future happening. And even though we've been paused right now as far as live events go, in a way it's almost helped, because look at the competitions you're doing, look at the training we're doing. It's almost like stepping back a little bit has helped us to say, you know what, we were rolling along those train tracks, we were rolling along. We needed to slow down a little bit and get some of these other things in place. Don't you think? I mean, it's kind of almost helped a little bit to just get that focus in there. What do you guys think about that?
Totally agree.
I love Michael. He's just like, I need you like sitting here just all day. I'm going to come up with ideas and things. I'm just going, Michael, he's going to be like, yes.
Yes.
You have such a so great opinions, and you formulate them. So there's really place for us.
Oh my gosh, I love this guy. I need people like this in my life.
Stop it, Michael. I'm getting jealous now.
No, it's okay, Armando. I love you too. It's all good. All right. Well, since we all love each other, we have just a minute left, and I want to ask another question. It might be something you can't answer, but since you guys like me, maybe you can come up with one little secret thing there. What are you working on for the future? Let us know. Is there anything you can tell fans to look forward to? Anything you've already announced, of course, that you just want to make sure people are aware of here? Or are there any kind of little hints you want to throw out there about what's to come in the future? Armando?
I don't think we've made an official announcement for it yet, but I do think our community already knows that we're working on improving the seasons as they currently stand.
Excuse me, Armando, just a second. That's for Wands.
For Wands, exactly.
Yeah.
So Wands is going to be improving its seasons, with more prizes, as well as some content that we're going to be dropping.
Okay, great. And so I think we hadn't said this in a while, but Wands is say the name of, I'm going to say that wrong. Cornucopia, Armando, is that correct?
Cortopia.
Okay. Yeah, I knew I was going to slaughter that as soon as I tried to say that.
You're like my autocorrect, Cornucopia. It keeps doing that on my phone. I've written it several times.
That's so funny. Well, it must be a Southern thing because my phone lady absolutely hates me, and every single time I say stuff, she mistypes it. And I swear she has a thing for saying bad words. Like, I don't ever curse. I do not curse at all. And I can't ever even say, like, I'll say the Rift and the Rift S. She never types that correctly. It's always coming out as a curse word. And I'm like, what are you doing? So I have to be real careful when I'm sending business messages because it doesn't look very proper if I don't actually correct her. So Wands from, say it again. Cortopia, so I don't mess it up. And then we have Michal from Wenkly Studio, Elven Assassin, are the games we're talking about. So what about you, Michal? You guys have anything coming up?
Yeah, we are working currently on 3 new locations, and we plan these locations for 8 players. This is something that we're yet like developing, researching, so we can't be like totally sure we will cope with these optimizations from the technical point of view, but this like enlarging the players that can play the game, this is one of our top priorities, and also creating content in a way that there will be 3 new maps. We've made some development in progress posts on Facebook, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can take a look. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Oh, that's great. That's really good. I'm excited about that because, like I said earlier, for both the games, I think it's just great that you can go in there and compete against other people in something you love. And the fantasy world, we're introducing people to things that, like Armando said earlier, we can't do these things in physical reality, so we can't go around killing orcs in real life or, doing magical spells. Well, I mean, I guess you could. They may not work, but yeah. Oh gosh. But thank you guys very much for joining us today. That was a great panel. You guys are fantastic. And we are going to stop now because anybody who wants to can hop in. Is the stream still going on, Armando, for your boot camp? How long will it last today? Do you know?
I think it's Mike that's doing the stream. We're not streaming our boot camps.
Oh, you're not.
We're posting them afterwards.
Okay, so they can check the video of the boot camp later. And yes, for the Elven Assassin tournament, that definitely is going to be streamed right after this. It starts in about 15 minutes, I believe. So thank everybody for showing up today, and we hope you have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Great talking to you.